The late afternoon light in Beverly Hills felt too calm for the kind of disaster that was about to break a family in half. Emma Carter stepped out of the glass sliding door, holding 7-month-old Noah against her shoulder. She moved slowly, breathing heavier than most women 8 months pregnant, but she still tried to keep her posture steady. The marble courtyard reflected a soft gold shine, and the white Mercedes parked near the fountain glowed under the sunday. For a moment, it looked like a perfect life, the kind of scene people imagine when they hear the word millionaire. Emma tightened her grip on Noah. His tiny fingers curled into her sweater. He always made a gentle sound when he felt her heartbeat. She kissed the top of his head before taking another careful step. Her iPhone buzzed in her back pocket, but she ignored it. She was here for one reason only: to confront the man she still believed she might save, if he would only listen. Ryan's voice reached her first low, relaxed, almost flirtatious. Then she heard a woman's laugh, light and sugary, a sound that did not belong in Emma's home. She moved past the small hedge and froze. Ryan, her husband, the tech millionaire who built his image on family values, was standing beside the marble fountain with Chloe draped against him. Chloe's manicured hand rested on his chest as if it belonged there. They were close enough that Emma could see their silhouettes merging under the reflection of the water. Her heart twisted painfully. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. Ryan tilted Chloe's chin and kissed her, slow and sure, like he had no reason to fear being seen. Emma felt Noah shift, sensing her tension. "Ryan," she called out, her voice breaking. He turned, annoyed, as if she had interrupted an important meeting, not exposed his betrayal. "Why are you out here?" he snapped. "You're supposed to be resting." "I'm your wife," Emma whispered. "And I'm carrying your child. I think I deserve to know why you're kissing someone else in our courtyard." Chloe tensed, but didn't move away. Her eyes swept Emma, from her swollen belly to Noah in her arms, with a cold, silent judgment. Ryan exhaled sharply. "Don't start again, Emma. You're emotional. You always twist things." She shook her head. "I saw it with my own eyes." Ryan stepped forward. His jaw tightened, his pride flared hotter than his guilt. "You should have stayed inside." "That's what you want, isn't it?" Emma asked. "For me to stay hidden, so you can live 2 lives." Noah whimpered softly. Emma shifted him higher on her hip. Ryan's eyes flicked to the baby, frustration flickering across his face. He didn't like scenes. He didn't like imperfections. He didn't like any threat to his image. "Emma, stop," he warned. She stood her ground. "No, not this time." Ryan moved too fast. He grabbed her arm, and she tried to step back. Her foot slipped. He shoved her away, more forcefully than he meant, but he didn't stop himself. Emma felt her balance vanish. Noah almost slipped from her arms as her body fell backward toward the stone. The world tilted. The sky flashed. Her breath caught. Pain exploded through her side. Warm liquid flowed down her leg. She clutched her belly. From the driveway, an engine roared as a truck arrived and saw everything. The scene began with a quiet rhythm inside the Beverly Hills mansion, long before Emma stepped into the courtyard and saw the kiss that shattered her world. She stood in the kitchen, warming a small bottle for Noah, while the refrigerator hummed softly behind her. The room smelled faintly of lavender cleaner. On the marble counter lay her MacBook Pro, still open to an email draft she had been too tired to finish. Her doctor had reminded her that morning about the importance of rest, but rest felt impossible lately. She kept waking up in the night with a sense that something terrible was coming. Emma glanced at the clock above the stove. Ryan was late again. He had promised to come home early, but promised meant nothing now. Every time she tried to talk to him, he brushed her off, claiming investor meetings, last-minute dinners, or emergency calls. She tried to believe him. She wanted to, but the loneliness inside her chest grew heavier each day. Her iPhone buzzed. A new message appeared from an unknown number. "He's lying to you. Be careful." She froze. The message came without explanation, no name, no follow-up. She stared at it for several seconds, then locked the phone with shaking hands. Her first instinct was fear, then denial. then dread. She wanted to tell Jack, but he was driving from Ohio and wouldn't arrive until evening. She didn't want to worry him before he even reached the state. Noah fussed softly, pulling her back into the moment. She lifted him, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "It's okay, sweet boy. Mommy's here." She fed him gently, rocking him until his eyes drooped. For a moment, the house felt peaceful, quiet, safe, but then a familiar sound echoed from outside, the soft purr of Ryan's Mercedes turning into the driveway. Emma stiffened. She wasn't prepared. She hadn't planned what she wanted to say. Her heart beat harder. She reached for the baby sling but decided against it, holding Noah close with one arm as she walked toward the back door. Halfway across the living room, she heard laughter from outside, a woman's laughter, light, flirtatious, and wrong. Emma's feet slowed, her breath caught. She moved toward the sliding glass door, each step sharper than the one before. When she reached the curtain, she hesitated. She told herself she could be mistaken, that she might hear the TV, or maybe Ryan was on a call. But deep down, she already knew the truth. She pushed the curtain aside. Through the courtyard sunlight, she saw Ryan standing far too close to a young woman with glossy, dark hair. At first, she didn't understand what she was seeing. She blinked, unsure, hoping the angle deceived her. But then Chloe leaned in and touched Ryan's chest with an intimate familiarity that stabbed straight into Emma's heart. Emma gasped. Her fingers tightened around Noah. She whispered, "Please, no." She wanted to turn around, to hide, to pretend she hadn't seen anything. But something inside her made her step forward. She needed answers, even if they destroyed her. As she stepped outside, Ryan didn't notice her yet, but Chloe did. And Chloe's smirk told Emma everything she feared was true, moments before the world collapsed under her feet. In that suspended second, Emma felt a strange mix of terror, heartbreak, and rising strength, as if the betrayal slicing through her also awakened something deeper, something that refused to stay silent, something that would push her toward a truth she could no longer avoid that day forever. Emma Carter's story didn't begin in a mansion or under the glow of Los Angeles lights. It began in a small town in Ohio, where the air smelled of cut grass in the summer and wood smoke in the winter. Her childhood home was a modest one-story house with faded blue shutters, the kind of place where neighbors waved from their porches and people still borrowed sugar from each other. Her father, Jack Carter, was a retired firefighter who carried the quiet strength of a man who had seen too much danger and still chose kindness every day. He raised Emma alone after her mother passed away when she was 14, shaping her into someone gentle but resilient, someone who believed loyalty could outshine any darkness. Emma met Ryan Walker the summer she turned 23. She had been working part-time at a local design shop while saving for graduate school. Ryan walked in wearing a crisp shirt and speaking with the confidence of a man who believed the world owed him space. He said he was in town pitching an early version of his tech idea to a small investor, and he needed help choosing decor for his temporary apartment. Emma helped him pick out a simple lamp. He flirted. She blushed. They spent 2 hours talking about dreams, ambition, and the future. She believed he was driven. He believed she was exactly the kind of woman who would support him without question. Their relationship moved quickly. Ryan invited her to visit Los Angeles 2 months later. He showed her the Century City skyline, telling her he would someday have an office there. He took her to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Pacific, promising her a life of stability and love. Emma, who had never been courted with such intensity, fell for the future he painted. She didn't see the cracks hiding beneath his charm, the ones even he refused to acknowledge. Jack met Ryan over dinner the following winter. The table was set simply, but Jack had cooked his best pot roast. Ryan spoke smoothly about building something revolutionary and needing just one investor who believed in him as much as Emma did. Jack didn't have much, but he saw sincerity, or thought he did. He quietly sold a small plot of land he had kept from his firefighting years and loaned Ryan enough money to launch his startup. Ryan promised Jack a handwritten agreement. If the company succeeded, Jack would receive a share. It was a simple promise, the kind men make when they want trust quickly. When Ryan proposed to Emma 6 months later, Jack hugged him with pride. Emma moved to Los Angeles with her heart full of hope, leaving behind her hometown, her routine, and the life she understood. The wedding took place on a rooftop hotel downtown, with lights sparkling like scattered diamonds. Emma thought she had married a dream, but dreams fade when reality takes their place, and Emma didn't know that her father's act of generosity would one day become the weapon Ryan feared most, the one she would use against him. That promise, written in simple ink on cheap paper, slept quietly in Jack's drawer for years, until the night everything began to break. It waited like a silent witness, holding the truth of who Ryan really was. And while Emma stepped into a life she believed would protect her, the paper waited for its moment to return, carrying the power to turn her pain into justice. A truth she never saw coming before. Life inside the Beverly Hills mansion looked polished enough to fool anyone standing at a distance, but Emma had begun to notice the small fractures forming beneath the shine. Ryan, once warm and grateful for everything she sacrificed, now carried himself like a man who believed success made him untouchable. He spoke differently, sharper and colder, as though every conversation was a competition she kept losing without understanding why. Emma tried to blame the stress of the company's expansion, but even that explanation stopped helping when Ryan began disappearing for entire evenings with no reason at all. Some nights he claimed he was in late meetings, yet Emma saw the way he hid his phone screen whenever she walked into the room. Other nights he returned smelling of perfume that didn't belong to her, a floral scent that clung to his collar like a quiet confession. She asked him gently at first, believing there had to be an innocent reason, but the more she asked, the more he acted as though she were a burden weighing down his perfect image. The first public crack appeared during a charity gala at the Ritz-Carlton, a night meant to celebrate families rebuilding after hardship. Emma dressed carefully that evening, wearing a soft navy gown that flowed comfortably over her growing belly, hoping Ryan would at least notice the effort. He barely glanced at her, too focused on greeting donors and posing for pictures beneath glittering chandeliers. But it was Chloe's entrance that shifted the air completely. Like a sudden drop in temperature, no one acknowledged but everyone felt. She wore a silver dress that sparkled under the lights, and she greeted Ryan with a familiarity that twisted inside Emma like a warning she wasn't ready to accept. Throughout the evening, they shared glances too quick for most to catch, but Emma saw every one of them, each glance landing like a small bruise. When the event ended, Ryan dismissed her concern by claiming Chloe was simply part of the public relations team, and Emma was overthinking everything again. But the most painful moment happened later that night when Emma walked into Ryan's office to leave him a cup of tea and found him standing in the dark staring at a picture of Chloe on his phone. He locked the screen so quickly that it confirmed every suspicion Emma had tried to bury beneath hope, loyalty, and the belief that marriage could survive anything. She walked out quietly, placing the tea on a side table, pretending she had seen nothing even though something inside her had begun to break. That night, she lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully, unaware that the woman he once called his anchor now felt like she was drifting farther from shore with every breath. And somewhere deep down, even before the courtyard betrayal shattered everything completely, Emma sensed the truth growing like a shadow behind her. The man she married was already gone, yet she kept hoping that something might pull him back, some kindness, some memory of the promises they once whispered when the world felt smaller and safer. She didn't know that even as she clung to that hope, forces she couldn't see were already circling their marriage, people who had witnessed Ryan's change and quietly waited for the moment the truth would surface. And in those hours before dawn, Emma had no idea that the house she tried so hard to hold together was preparing to expose secrets hidden within its walls. That night, the night before the courtyard chaos, the mansion carried a strange quiet that made Emma uneasy. She stood in the hallway outside Ryan's office, listening to the muffled sound of his voice. He was having another late conversation, the kind he always labeled important business. But this time something felt different. She heard no stress, no tension, only a steady confidence that almost sounded like excitement. When she stepped closer, she recognized Chloe's laugh on speaker. The sound cut through her chest like a blade. Emma backed away, pressing a hand against her belly while Noah slept upstairs peacefully. She didn't want to admit what her instincts screamed, yet the truth had been circling her for weeks, tightening like an invisible rope. She walked calmly into the kitchen, though her hands trembled. She poured water into a glass, simply to have something to hold. A part of her still hoped she misunderstood, that maybe Ryan and Chloe were discussing publicity plans. But another part, the broken part, already knew the conversation wasn't about work. She heard it in the softness of Ryan's voice, a softness he no longer used with her. It felt like listening to a goodbye spoken in code. Later that evening, Ryan entered the bedroom without acknowledging her. He tossed his jacket onto a chair, loosened his tie, and checked his phone with a faint smile that twisted Emma's stomach. She tried asking where he had been, but he barely answered. When she pressed a little more, his voice hardened instantly, turning the room cold. He accused her of trying to control him, then claimed she was becoming too emotional. She stood quietly, absorbing every word like a bruise forming beneath skin. She wanted peace, not war, but Ryan carried conflict with him now, like an accessory he refused to remove. That night, after Ryan fell asleep facing away from her, Emma slipped quietly out of bed. She stepped into the hallway, letting the soft glow from the nightlight guide her. She couldn't rest. Every breath felt like walking on cracked glass. She checked on Noah, brushing her fingers over his tiny hand, drawing strength from the warmth of his presence. Standing there, she wondered when her marriage had turned into a place she feared instead of trusted. She whispered a promise to her son. She would find a way to protect him, no matter how dark the path ahead became. When Emma returned to the bedroom, she found Ryan awake again, sitting on the edge of the bed and staring at his phone. He didn't notice her at first. He muttered something under his breath, something that sounded like frustration mixed with urgency. Then she heard Chloe's voice faintly through the speaker, followed by Ryan whispering, "We need to finish those documents soon." Emma froze. Documents? She didn't understand what he meant, but the tone made her instinctively place a hand over her belly. She stepped back before he noticed. That single word felt like a storm waiting beyond the horizon. Sleep never came for Emma after that moment. She lay awake, listening to the soft hum of the house, wondering what those documents could possibly mean. Every instinct in her body warned her that something dangerous was unfolding behind her back. She tried to convince herself she was imagining the worst, but uneasiness refused to fade. She reached for Noah's baby monitor and held it against her chest, grounding herself in his steady breathing. Then, somewhere in the stillness, she realized truth. Tomorrow would not bring peace. It would bring a sudden reckoning. The moment Emma's body hit the stone courtyard, the world around her slipped into a slow, distorted silence. She didn't hear her own gasp, only the thudding echo of Noah's frightened cry as he nearly slipped from her arms. The housekeeper darted forward just in time, catching the baby with trembling hands while Emma's back struck the unforgiving ground. Pain shot through her abdomen, sharp and invasive, like something tearing inside. The warmth that followed was unmistakable blood, spreading beneath her dress, pooling against the pale stone that once symbolized luxury but now felt like a battlefield. Ryan froze at the sight, as though the consequences of his own rage were a surprise. His face drained of color, but not out of concern, out of fear that someone might have seen. He glanced around the courtyard, scanning for witnesses before he reached for Emma with hesitant hands. She recoiled instinctively, clutching her belly as another wave of pain ripped through her. Her vision blurred. She tried to breathe, but the air felt stuck in her chest, turning each inhale into a desperate fight. Noah wailed from the housekeeper's shoulder, his fear piercing the air more sharply than any accusation. "Emma, get up," Ryan hissed, glancing again toward the driveway. "Don't make this dramatic." Emma tried to lift herself, but her arms buckled. A hot rush of dizziness washed over her. She saw Chloe step closer, not with fear, but irritation, as though Emma were an inconvenience ruining her afternoon. Chloe folded her arms, her voice low and cold. "She's bleeding a lot. This is bad." Emma tasted metal at the back of her throat. She pressed her palms to the stone, trying to keep herself upright while the world tilted in sickening waves. Her pregnancy had been delicate from the start. She knew what heavy bleeding meant. The terror wasn't just for herself. It was for the tiny life inside her that had no way to fight back. She whispered, "Please, help." Ryan stepped back, running a hand through his hair as panic flickered behind his carefully built mask. "I'll call someone," he muttered, though he didn't reach for his phone. Chloe whispered urgently, "We need to leave before anyone shows up. This is going to ruin everything." Emma's fingers trembled as she pressed them to her belly, feeling the tightening pain deepen. She felt cold spreading up her spine. Her breaths grew shorter, thinner. She knew she was fading. She tried to stay awake, focusing on Noah's cries. The housekeeper clutched him protectively, shouting for help toward the gate. Then the sharp rumble of an engine echoed down the driveway, the sound of an old pickup truck pulling in fast. Emma's heart jolted with recognition. Jack. And he was seeing everything. Jack jumped out before the truck fully stopped, his boots hitting the stone with a force that made both Chloe and Ryan flinch. He saw the blood first, then Emma's shaking hands, then the terror in her eyes. Every muscle in his body tightened as he rushed to her side. "Emma," he breathed, kneeling in the spreading red. She tried to speak, but only managed a faint sound. Jack turned to Ryan with a rage so it felt like the air itself cracked. "What did you do?" he demanded. Ryan stammered something about an accident, but the lie collapsed instantly under Jack's glare. The housekeeper stepped forward, still holding Noah, voice trembling as she said, "He pushed her." Jack's jaw clenched. He lifted Emma carefully, shouting for someone to call 911. As he held her, Emma felt the world shift. Her father had arrived. Jack Carter had seen emergencies before, fires swallowing homes, metal crushing metal, lives slipping away while sirens wailed in the distance. But nothing in his decades as a firefighter compared to the sight of his only daughter bleeding on a cold stone courtyard, while the man who vowed to protect her stood frozen like a Sovart. The moment he lifted Emma into his arms, something ancient and fierce rose in him, a primal need to shield, defend, and fight for the child he once carried on his shoulders through Ohio summers. "Stay with me, Em," Jack urged, pressing his hand against her abdomen, trying to slow the bleeding, though he knew pressure wouldn't fix what was happening inside her. Emma clutched his sleeve weakly, her breath shallow, each inhale punctured by pain. Her eyes fluttered, but she forced them open long enough to whisper, "Dad, the baby, help." Jack swallowed hard. "I'm right here. I've got you." His voice trembled despite every ounce of training telling him to stay steady, stay logical, stay strong. But seeing his daughter like this cracked something deep inside him. Behind them, Ryan paced in frantic circles, running his hands through his hair. This is being blown out of proportion," he muttered, glancing between Jack and Emma as if he were the only victim in the scene. "She slipped. I told her to be careful." Jack turned slowly, eyes sharp as steel. "She didn't slip," he growled. "I saw your face the moment you realized I was here. That was guilt, not concern." Ryan's mouth opened, but no words came. Chloe shifted uncomfortably, heels scraping the stone, her confidence slipping under the weight of Jack's presence. "Maybe we should all calm down," she said hesitantly. This is just an unfortunate situation." Jack shot her a look so cold it forced her back a step. "Stay away from my daughter." The housekeeper handed Noah to Jack for a moment, tears streaming down her face. "I saw everything," she whispered. "He pushed her. Hard." That was the moment fear flickered in Ryan's eyes, not fear for Emma, but fear for himself. Jack reached for Noah, holding the crying baby against his chest with one arm as he kept his other around Emma. The trembling in his jaw made it clear he was moments from exploding. "You laid a hand on my daughter while she was carrying your child," Jack growled. "I should break you right here." Ryan stepped back. "Don't be dramatic, Jack." It was the wrong sentence. Jack's voice dropped to a terrifying calm. "I've seen men like you. They start with excuses, then they escalate. If I arrived 5 minutes later, she might have died right here. You think I don't know what he looks like? I spent 35 years pulling innocent people out of it." Ryan moved forward as if to defend himself, but Jack stood, towering over him with Noah still clinging to his shirt. For the first time in his life, Ryan looked small. "What happens next," Jack said slowly, "will depend on whether you tell the truth." But before Ryan could respond, Jack's phone rang. He ignored it, but it rang again. Finally he answered. A man's voice came through sharply. Mr. Carter, this is urgent. Someone needs to check the basement of that house. Now. Jack stiffened. Who is this? A friend, the man replied. And someone who cares about your daughter more than the man who just harmed her. Trust me. The basement. Jack narrowed his eyes but tucked the information away for later. First, he needed to save Emma. Sirens wailed in the distance. Paramedics rushed through the gate. As they lifted Emma onto a stretcher, her fingers brushed Jack's wrist weakly. "Dad," she whispered, eyes trying to stay open. "I'm right behind you," Jack promised. But he wasn't looking at her, he was staring at Ryan, with a vow forming silently behind his eyes. This would never be forgiven. The ambulance doors swung open under the harsh fluorescent lights of the Los Angeles hospital, and Emma was rushed inside with tubes already running across her arms. The sharp smell of antiseptic mixed with the coppery scent of blood clinging to her skin. Jack followed close behind, refusing to let the stretcher out of his sight. His boots echoed down the hallway. His heart pounded harder with every step. He kept one hand on Noah's carrier, the other clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Severe abdominal trauma. A medic called out as they pushed through the ER doors. Possible placental abruption. Heavy blood loss. The words stabbed Jack like cold steel. He had seen injuries like this before, but never on someone he loved. He watched as doctors surrounded Emma, pulling curtains shut. For a moment he felt powerless, trapped outside the fabric barrier, while the most precious part of his life fought for breath behind it. Emma drifted in and out of consciousness. She could hear voices, sharp commands, hurried footsteps, the beep of machines, but they all sounded distant, as if underwater. A nurse pressed an oxygen mask over her face. Another inserted an IV, whispering, "Stay with us, sweetheart, stay with us." Ryan appeared minutes later, breathless and disheveled but still trying to look composed. He smoothed his shirt, straightened his posture, and approached the desk like a man handling a business inconvenience. "My wife slipped," he announced loudly, making sure everyone heard. "I just want to make sure she's getting the best care." Jack turned, the look in his eyes enough to freeze the air. "I dare you to say that again," he growled. Ryan lifted his hands defensively. "Jack, this isn't the time." "No," Jack snapped. "This is exactly the time." A security guard watched closely, sensing the danger simmering beneath Jack's calm voice. Ryan took a small step backward. Before Jack could say more, a nurse approached with updates. Emma had lost significant blood. The baby's heartbeat was unstable. They were prepping her for emergency intervention. Jack felt his knees weaken. He placed a hand on the wall to steady himself. Ryan swallowed hard, but not out of concern, out of fear that the situation was spiraling beyond his control. When the nurse walked away, Ryan exhaled sharply. "We can't let this get out. My company is finalizing a deal. If this turns into some kind of domestic violence accusation, everything I've built could collapse." Jack stared at him, stunned. "You selfish..." Ryan cut him off. "I'm trying to protect all of us." "All of us?" Jack repeated, voice low. "You pushed my pregnant daughter. You almost killed your own child. And now your concern is your investors?" Ryan glanced around, lowering his voice. "Look, we just need to get Emma to sign something once she wakes up. A statement that says she fell. No accusations. No police report." Jack's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, but before he could lash out, a nurse interrupted this one wearing a badge that said Maya. Her eyes flicked between the two men, reading the tension instantly. She leaned closer to Jack and whispered, "We flagged her chart. Suspected domestic violence. No one can make her sign anything while she's like this." Jack felt a rush of gratitude. He nodded. Maya pretended to rearrange forms and slipped a piece of paper into Jack's hand, a hotline number, and a note. "She's not alone." Ryan noticed nothing. Instead, he pulled out his phone, stepping into the hallway to call someone. Jack heard fragments of his words. "Manage the story. Press ready. If she talks, we're all screwed." Jack's stare hardened. Behind the curtain, Emma moaned softly, fighting consciousness. A doctor shouted for more blood. Machines beeped frantically. Jack closed his eyes, whispering a prayer he hadn't spoken since he buried his wife. He opened them again with a new resolve. If Emma survived this night, he would burn Ryan's world to the ground. Ryan stepped into the bright hallway outside the emergency room, pulling his shoulders back as if preparing for a press conference instead of facing the consequences of nearly killing his pregnant wife. The hospital's overhead lights reflected off the polished floor, casting long shadows behind him. He checked his appearance in the dark screen of his phone's straightened collar, no blood on his clothes, expression controlled. Then, with deliberate calm, he hit the record button. "This is Ryan Walker," he said softly, arranging his voice into something gentle and practiced. "My wife had a tragic accident today. She slipped in our courtyard while holding our son. Please keep our family in your prayers." He paused as if grief had caught his throat. But it wasn't grief. It was calculation. Behind him, a young janitor pushing a cart slowed down, pretending to adjust the mop bucket while discreetly listening. The janitor's eyes narrowed not out of curiosity, but recognition. He had seen this man before. Ryan had yelled at him 2 months earlier in this very hallway for accidentally spraying disinfectant near his expensive shoes. Now the janitor pulled out his phone quietly, hitting record. He had heard the housekeeper earlier when Jack carried Emma inside. He pushed her hard. This video might matter. Ryan finished his performance, saved the recording, and sent it to his public relations manager with a text. "If this gets out, release immediately." Then he dialed another number. "Is the statement drafted?" he whispered. "Make sure it's clear. She fell. That's the only story." As Ryan continued scheming, Maya, the nurse who had just assisted Emma, stepped behind a half-closed curtain and listened. She didn't mean to overhear, but his tone made her freeze in place. She'd worked with abuse victims before. She recognized the signs, the guilt shifting, story building, image protecting. It made her stomach twist. Meanwhile, Jack stood near the vending machines, Noah's carrier at his feet, his fingers clenched around a paper cup of black coffee he wouldn't drink. He could hear fragments of Ryan's conversation. Every word made his anger boil hotter. But Jack forced himself to stay still. He needed to be smart. Emotion alone wouldn't protect Emma. Evidence would. Just then, a quiet voice spoke beside him. "Sir, are you Emma Carter's father?" Jack turned and saw the janitor holding his phone nervously. "I don't want trouble," he said, "but I thought you should know." He told a different story on camera. He didn't say she was pushed. He said she slipped. "I got it on video." Jack's breath caught. "You recorded him?" The janitor nodded. "Someone like that. He shouldn't get away with it." Jack took a slow breath. "You have no idea what this means." As Jack thanked him, Maya approached, clutching a small tablet. "Mr. Carter," she said quietly, "there's something else. One of your daughter's vitals monitors captured audio when she was brought in." A doctor asked what happened, and Emma whispered, "He pushed me. It's faint, but it's there." Jack felt the ground shift beneath him, not with fear, but with purpose. 2 witnesses, 2 recordings, 2 angles of truth forming. While Jack absorbed this, Ryan rounded the corner, nearly bumping into them. His eyes flicked between the janitor, Maya, and Jack, sensing something he couldn't name but instantly feared. "What are you all staring at?" Ryan snapped. Jack stepped forward slowly. "Just watching you," he said, voice ice, calm. "Because every lie you speak is being recorded somewhere." Ryan scoffed, but his eyes darted nervously. Jack didn't blink. "The truth," Jack murmured, "is coming for you." Emma woke to a dull, rhythmic beeping, like a distant metronome pulling her back from a place where sound barely existed. Her eyelids felt heavy, as if weighted with sand, but she forced them open. Harsh hospital lights blurred into white streaks. A cold pressure hugged her arm and IV. Her throat ached. Her body felt hollow, as though something had been torn away, and her soul was trying to understand what remained. A soft voice broke through. "Emma, can you hear me?" It was Maya, the nurse with warm eyes and quick hands. She stood at the bedside, adjusting a monitor, her expression gentle but edged with concern. Emma tried to respond, but only a whimper escaped. Her heart leapt in panic. "The baby," she gasped. "My baby." Maya quickly placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your baby is still alive," she said softly. "The doctors stabilized you both. It's critical, but you're safe for now. You need to stay calm." Relief washed over Emma so intensely that tears gathered before she could stop them. She pressed her trembling fingers to her belly, feeling the bandage beneath the thin hospital gown. A soft ache pulsed there, reminding her of how close she had been to losing everything. Before she could ask another question, the curtain parted. Jack stepped inside slowly, carrying Noah in his arms. His eyes were red, swollen, and tired in a way she had never seen before. When he saw she was awake, his breath faltered. "Emma," he whispered. She reached for Noah first. Jack lowered the baby gently into her arms. Noah blinked up at her, his tiny face scrunched from sleep, completely unaware of the storm that had nearly taken his mother away. Emma held him close, burying her face against his soft hair. For a moment, nothing else mattered. She cried silently, the tears soaking Noah's blanket while her father placed a hand on her shoulder and let her fall apart. When she finally looked up, she saw Jack's expression shift, grief mingled with something darker, something hard and determined. "Dad, what happened?" she whispered. He hesitated, not out of uncertainty, but out of fear that the truth might break her again. "You were pushed, Emma, hard. You hit the ground. You lost a lot of blood. The doctors said it was close, too close." Emma closed her eyes, pain flickering across her face, not just physical pain, but the deep, soul-tearing kind that leaves scars no one sees. Every denial she'd told herself shattered in that moment. Every excuse she made for Ryan collapsed. "He did this," she whispered. "Ryan did this." Jack nodded slowly. "And he's trying to claim it was an accident." Emma's breath trembled. "Of course he is." Maya stepped closer. "You should also know there's documentation in your chart. We marked it as suspected domestic violence, so no one can force you into signing anything." Emma glanced at her gratefully. Then, as if summoned by the mention of his name, Ryan entered. He carried a bouquet of white lilies, dramatic, expensive, tastelessly large. The kind of gesture done for optics, not remorse. His expression twisted into something soft and concerned when he saw her awake, but Emma saw through it instantly. "Emma," he breathed, stepping closer. She didn't respond. Ryan continued, rehearsed and polished. "I hate that you fell. I hate that this happened. When you're feeling better, maybe we can talk and clear everything up." Jack cut in, voice like a blade. "She didn't fall." Ryan's jaw tightened. Emma met his eyes for the first time since the courtyard. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I remember everything." Ryan froze, because behind those words, he felt something he had never feared before. Emma wasn't afraid of him anymore. The morning after Emma woke, the hospital room felt different. Not safer, nothing felt safe yet, but clearer, as if the fog that once blurred her reality had been wiped away. She sat propped against the pillows, Noah asleep in the bassinet beside her, the slow rise and fall of his small chest grounding her. Jack sat in the chair near the window, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like a man preparing for a war he didn't want but would never run from. Emma watched him quietly for a moment. Jack looked up, offering a tired smile. "Didn't need to. I needed to think." "About what?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "About how to protect you, and how to make sure Ryan never gets to rewrite what happened." Emma swallowed. That fear, the rewriting of truth, had always been one of Ryan's sharpest weapons. "He'll try," she whispered. "He's already planning to." "Oh, he's more than planning," Jack muttered, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a folded sheet of paper, a handwritten note on aging stationery. "But so am I." Emma frowned. "What's that?" Jack handed it to her gently, almost reverently. Emma opened it. The familiar handwriting hit her immediately. Ryan's handwriting. Younger, less polished, less arrogant. The memory of it pulled her back to simpler years. The paper read, "If this company succeeds, I promise Jack Carter a 15% share of all future earnings, in gratitude for believing in me before anyone else did. Signed, Ryan Walker." Emma lifted her hand to her mouth, stunned. "You kept this all these years?" Jack nodded. Didn't think I'd ever need it. But here we are. As Emma studied the paper, something stirred inside her anger. Yes, but also clarity. Ryan had built an empire on support he never honored. He had taken her father's money, her father's trust, then denied the debt once success surrounded him. It made everything inside Emma sharpen. A soft knock came at the door. Maya stepped inside, carrying a clipboard but offering a smile meant only for Emma. "I brought what you asked," she said carefully. Jack raised an eyebrow. "What did she ask for?" Emma looked at him gently. "The reports. My medical notes from last night." Jack watched silently as Maya handed Emma a printed set of documents. On the first page, handwritten by a doctor, were the words, "Patient reported being pushed by spouse before losing consciousness." Jack exhaled slowly, pride warming his tired eyes. Maya leaned closer. "Emma, I also spoke to a friend of mine. He works in digital forensics. If anything happened at your house, any footage, any deleted files, he might be able to recover them." Emma's breath hitched. "You think there's something?" "I think men like Ryan leave trails without realizing it," Maya said. "And I think you're going to need all the evidence you can get." Jack cleared his throat. "We'll take any help we can." At that moment, the door opened again, this time with a calm, steady presence. A man in his early 40s stepped inside, carrying a briefcase and wearing a charcoal suit. His eyes were sharp but kind. "Mr. Carter?" he asked. Jack stood. "Yes." The man extended his hand. "Daniel Brooks, family law attorney. We spoke on the phone years ago about that loan from Ohio. I heard what happened. I want to help." Jack froze for a second. Then he shook Daniel's hand with relief and gratitude. Daniel set his briefcase on the table. "Before we begin, let me make one thing clear. Ryan doesn't get to bury this. Not legally, not publicly, not ever." Emma steadied her breath. "What do we do first?" Daniel opened a folder thick with documents. "We build a case, carefully, quietly, and thoroughly. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for your children." Emma nodded. Something inside her clicked into place. She was done surviving. Now she would outthink him. While Emma recovered in the hospital, Chloe Lewis lounged by the shimmering pool of a boutique hotel in West Hollywood, a place with velvet cabanas, citrus-perfumed towels, and a rooftop bar designed for influencers who lived for attention. She dipped her toes in the water, scrolling through her phone with the contentment of someone who believed she was finally winning. Sunlight glinted off her sunglasses as she reviewed the screenshots Ryan had sent her earlier. He had texted, "Handled it." She slipped, "PR has the statement ready." Chloe smirked. Perfect. With Emma out of the picture, she had assumed her place beside Ryan was guaranteed. She imagined herself living in the Beverly Hills mansion, attending tech events on Ryan's arm, wearing designer dresses she used to only try on and take mirror selfies in. Her fantasy was woven so tightly around her ego that she didn't see the loose threads unraveling beneath her. Her friend Tiffany slid into the lounge chair beside her. "You look smug," Tiffany teased, sipping iced water. "Something good happen?" Chloe tilted her head dramatically. "Let's just say I won't be living in rental apartments much longer." Tiffany laughed. "Did he finally say he'd leave the wife?" "Soon," Chloe replied, adjusting her bikini strap. "Once Emma signs whatever paperwork he needs, the rest will move fast. You should hear the way he talks about me. I'm the future. She's the past." But Tiffany, smarter than she looked, raised an eyebrow. "You sure? Rich men say a lot of things when they want comfort." Chloe scoffed. "He's not like that." Yet even as she said it, her phone buzzed an unknown number. Chloe declined it, but the caller immediately tried again. Annoyed, she answered, snapping. "What?" A shaky voice whispered. "You don't know me, but you need to be careful. Things aren't what Ryan told you." Chloe sat up. "Excuse me? He's planning to shift money into your name. Illegal transfers. If investigators look into it, you'll be the first person blamed." Before she could respond, the call dropped. For the first time that day, Chloe's breath hitched. She stood abruptly, walking toward the shade. replaying every conversation she'd had with Ryan over the last month. He had asked for her personal information, bank accounts, address, even her signature for practical matters. He'd told her it was temporary, something about restructuring assets, but she had been so flattered she didn't question it. Now, her pulse quickened. She called Ryan immediately. He answered on the third ring, whispering harshly, "I can't talk. Emma just woke up." Chloe clenched her jaw. "Are you shifting assets into my name? Someone called me." Ryan cut her off, irritation lacing every word. "Chloe, relax. I'm protecting what's mine. You don't understand business." "Business?" she repeated sharply. "You said it was temporary." "It is," he snapped. "Don't make this dramatic." Her grip tightened around her phone. "If something happens to Emma, what happens to Emma is her fault," he hissed quietly. "And if you care about your future, you'll stay in your lane." He hung up before she could speak. Chloe stared at her reflection in the pool's glittering surface, perfect hair, perfect skin, perfect lies surrounding her. Suddenly, she felt less like a future wife and more like a pawn Ryan was positioning on a board he controlled. She paced, chewing her lip, replaying moments she had dismissed before. Ryan's temper, his casual threats, the way he ridiculed Emma behind her back. She thought those things made her special. Now she realized they might make her next. Fear crept into her stomach like a slow poison. She didn't want to be disposable. She didn't want to go down for Ryan's crimes. So she did the first thing she could think of. She opened the recording app on her phone. She whispered, "Ryan told me he wants Emma gone. He said once she signs, everything will be ours." She hesitated, then continued recording every detail she remembered. She didn't know it yet, but the file she saved that afternoon would soon become the weapon Emma never expected one Chloe never planned to give her. The hospital room was dim when the housekeeper arrived, her eyes red, her hands trembling as she stood just inside the doorway. Jack rose immediately, ready to protect Emma from anything that might distress her, but the woman lifted both palms gently, signaling she meant no harm. "Mr. Carter," she whispered, glancing nervously behind her as if Ryan might appear at any moment. I needed to come. I have something for you." Emma, resting upright with Noah asleep beside her, met the woman's eyes. "It's okay," she said softly. "You can come in. You helped my baby yesterday." The housekeeper stepped forward, clutching her handbag to her chest. Her voice cracked. "I should have said something sooner. Mrs. Carter, I'm so sorry. I saw everything. He pushed you. Hard. And it wasn't the first time he scared you. I should have protected you." Emma reached for her hand. "You did protect me. You saved my son." Tears filled the woman's eyes. "I didn't do enough." She opened her bag, fumbling with a small zipper pouch. "There's something else. Something I found. Something he doesn't know. I kept." Jack stiffened. "What is it?" She pulled out a small USB drive, wrapped in a napkin, as if it were fragile. 2 weeks ago, Chloe asked one of the security technicians to delete the courtyard camera footage from a certain day. I didn't know why, but I made a copy before it disappeared. I don't know how much it shows, but I think it matters. Jack took the USB with both hands, as if accepting a sacred key. "You don't know how much you just helped my daughter." The housekeeper nodded shakily. "I just want her safe. That's all." Before Jack could say more, a firm knock sounded on the door. Daniel Brooks stepped inside, carrying a laptop and a folder. His presence filled the room with a sense of quiet control, the kind of steady certainty that told Emma she wasn't alone anymore. "Perfect timing," Jack said, holding up the USB. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Is that what I think it is?" "It's evidence," Jack replied, "and it's going to expose him." Daniel set up the laptop on the small rolling tray by Emma's bed. The room felt smaller suddenly, the tension thickening as he inserted the USB. Emma clutched the blanket, her heart beat loud in her ears. She wasn't ready to relive the moment, but she needed the truth. The screen flickered, then displayed the courtyard, the fountain, the marble stone, the small hedge Emma had walked past. The footage was time-stamped, clear, crisp. They watched Ryan pacing, checking his phone. Then Chloe walking toward him. Then the kiss, the betrayal. And finally, Emma stepping into view holding Noah. Jack inhaled sharply. Emma's breath caught. Then Ryan grabbed her arm. They saw the shove. The fall. The moment the blood bloomed beneath her like spilled paint. Maya, who had stepped in quietly without Emma noticing, covered her mouth. Daniel rewound the footage, studying the angles. This is enough to destroy his she-slipped story, and enough to establish intention. He didn't lose his balance. He forcefully pushed her. Jack's voice trembled with fury. He almost killed her. He almost killed my grandchild. Daniel nodded. And we're going to use every second of this to ensure he pays for it. But then Maya spoke up, eyes wide. There's something else. She opened a message on her phone, an audio file her partner had just sent. We recovered a deleted recording from Chloe's phone. Someone tried to wipe it permanently. Jack leaned in. Play it. Maya pressed the button. Ryan's voice filled the room, chilling and unmistakable. I only married her for image and Jack's money. Once she signs, Emma's gone. I want her out of my life. Emma didn't cry. She didn't shake. She didn't collapse. Instead, she lifted her chin. For the first time since the push, fire returned to her eyes. We're not just going to fight him, she whispered. We're going to finish him. The morning sun crept through the windows of the Beverly Hills mansion, glinting off the glass panels and polished floors. But the house felt colder now, sterile, hollow, stripped of the warmth it once pretended to hold. Ryan stormed from room to room, slamming doors, pacing like a trapped animal. His phone buzzed, nonstop. Texts from investors, messages from his PR manager, missed calls from board members who suddenly needed clarity. He ignored most of them, too rattled to form coherent lies. The night before, he had received a call from his assistant. Sir, there's a rumor spreading. Someone said the fall wasn't an accident. That single sentence cracked his composure. Ryan knew what rumors could do in Los Angeles, the city fed on scandal like a wild animal. He marched into his home office, shutting the door behind him. He pulled out his phone and snapped at his assistant. Shut it down. I don't care how, just shut it down. His reflection on the dark computer screen startled him. His face looked older, more desperate. Still, he forced himself to breathe, forced himself to embody the polished CEO he pretended to be. But his thoughts kept drifting to Jack's glare, the janitor's suspicious stare, Maya's quiet presence, loose ends everywhere. Even Chloe wasn't answering his texts, which bothered him more than he expected. She had been predictable, obedient. Now she was silent. Something was slipping. He tightened his grip on his phone. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Emma sat upright in bed, looking stronger than she had the day before, still pale, still fragile, but the fear in her eyes had been replaced with focus. With Noah sleeping in the bassinet beside her, she listened as Daniel spread several documents across her tray table. Ryan's company is hosting a major investor meeting tomorrow, Daniel said. A very public one. He'll try to spin the story before we act. This means we move first. Emma nodded. I want the truth out. All of it. Jack, standing beside her, crossed his arms. That man has hidden plenty. That phone call about the basement wasn't nothing. Daniel glanced over. Basement? Jack opened his phone, found the number, and replayed the strange voicemail from the unknown caller. Check the basement of that house, before he moves anything. Daniel's brows knit tightly. If someone is warning you, then Ryan's hiding more than we expected. Maya stepped forward. My partner checked the timestamps on Chloe's recording. She made it the same day Ryan asked a security tech to wipe camera footage. These events connect. Emma looked between all of them. So Ryan isn't just trying to rewrite the story. He's covering something else. Daniel nodded. Exactly. And if we find it, we gain leverage that no PR statement can bury. Back at the mansion, Ryan descended into the basement with his phone flashlight guiding him. The concrete floor echoed under his footsteps. This room wasn't used often. Only Ryan had the passcode. It held his private servers, old contract boxes, remnants of deals he didn't want Emma or anyone else to see. He walked to the server rack, typing quickly to check logs. Files were missing. Someone had accessed the system at 2:14 a.m. His stomach dropped. Chloe, he whispered. But no, Chloe didn't know the code. Jack had been in the house. Long enough. Distracted enough by Emma's emergency to be left alone in the courtyard. And if he had checked the basement, Ryan ran a hand through his hair, dread forming like ice water in his veins. If anyone discovered the encrypted folders, proof of hidden funds, shell accounts, illegal transfers, his entire empire would collapse. The same afternoon, Daniel received a call. A deep voice spoke calmly. "You don't know me, but you're helping Emma. So you need this. A pause. The basement has everything you need to bury him." The line went dead. Daniel stared at his phone, then at Emma and Jack. "It's time," he said. "We hit him where he lives." Emma inhaled deeply, fire rising in her chest. Ryan had built his world on lies. Now she would use every one of them to take that world apart. 2 days later, after doctors finally allowed Emma limited movement, she returned to the Beverly Hills mansion not as a wife seeking peace, but as a woman walking into the lion's den fully aware of the fire she carried. Jack walked beside her, steady and unyielding. Daniel followed with a briefcase containing every piece of evidence they'd gathered. Maya had stayed behind with Noah, keeping him safe while Emma prepared to face the man who had nearly taken everything from her. The gates opened slowly. The courtyard, once a symbol of luxury, now felt like the site of a crime scene she would never forget. Emma inhaled shakily, but held her head high. The familiar marble glistened beneath her shoes, a reminder of the blood she had left on this ground only days earlier. Ryan appeared in the doorway, visibly irritated, but trying to mask it with a smile that looked more like a twitch. "Emma," he said loudly, "you shouldn't be out of the hospital yet. This isn't good for your health." "Neither was you shoving me onto the pavement," Emma replied calmly. Ryan's jaw clenched. He tried to step forward, but Jack immediately blocked him, standing like a wall of muscle and fury. "We're here for the truth," Jack warned. "Nothing more, nothing less." Chloe appeared next, wearing a silk robe and looking annoyed to be dragged into any drama. When she saw Emma, she smirked. "Didn't expect you to be back so soon." Emma didn't even look at her. "Your opinion doesn't matter." Chloe stiffened. Daniel set his briefcase on the outdoor table by the fountain right where Ryan and Chloe had once kissed. Poetic justice. Then he opened it, pulled out a sleek tablet, and placed it in the center. "This," Daniel said, "is why we're here." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "What is that?" Daniel tapped the screen. The courtyard video began playing. The shove, the fall, the blood, the audio of Emma's faint voice. Then Chloe's gasp, the housekeeper's scream. The moment Ryan stepped back in panic instead of helping. Ryan lunged toward the tablet. "Turn that off." Jack shoved him back with one hand. "Touch it again, and I'll drop you where you stand." Chloe paled, stepping backward. "Ryan, you told me no one saw." But Daniel wasn't done. He pulled out a second device. "And there's more." He pressed play. Chloe's secret recording filled the courtyard. Ryan's voice, cold and unmistakable. "I only married her for image and Jack's money. Once she signs, Emma's gone." Then another clip recovered from Chloe's deleted files. "I don't care what happens. I want her out of my life." Chloe's face drained of color. I didn't mean for you to hear that." Emma looked at her for the first time, expression steady. "But I did hear it." Ryan's composure shattered. "You can't use that. That was private. It becomes public the moment it concerns attempted harm," Daniel responded coolly. Jack stepped forward, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "Get on your knees." Ryan flinched. "What?" "You pushed my daughter while she carried your children. You almost killed her. You almost killed your own baby. You look her in the eye and apologize. On your knees." Ryan laughed bitterly. "I'm not doing that." Daniel reached into the briefcase and pulled out printed copies of financial documents, ones from the basement server. "The court will be very interested in how you shifted funds illegally, Mr. Walker, and how you listed Chloe as the temporary owner of 2 offshore accounts." Chloe gasped. "What? You used my name? You said it wouldn't involve me." Ryan spun toward her. I was going to fix it." But Chloe backed away in horror. "You were going to let me take the fall." She slapped him. Hard. Jack stepped forward again. "On your knees." This time, when Ryan looked around, No one defended him. Not Chloe, not the staff, not even the house that once glorified him. Ryan's legs buckled. He sank to the marble, hands trembling, pride shattering. Emma stepped closer, not out of pity, but closure. "You didn't break me," she said softly. "You revealed yourself." Ryan lowered his head. For the first time in his life, he was exactly where he belonged. The confrontation at the mansion was only the beginning. By the next morning, the legal storm surrounding Ryan Walker had grown from a whisper into a roaring blaze. His company's board members demanded explanations. Investors called nonstop. Gossip columns leaked vague hints about a violent incident involving a prominent tech founder and his wife. And while Ryan scrambled to contain the fallout, Emma, Jack, and Daniel prepared to strike with precision. The courthouse in downtown Los Angeles was buzzing that day, lawyers rushing through metal detectors, plaintiffs clutching folders, journalists hovering near the entrance, hoping for glimpses of scandal. Into this chaos stepped Emma, steady on her feet, dressed simply in a cream blouse and loose slacks. Her belly was still bandaged beneath the fabric, her skin pale, but her eyes were sharp with resolve. Jack walked beside her like a silent shield, and Daniel carried 2 thick binders filled with evidence. Ryan arrived moments later, trailed by 3 attorneys in expensive suits. He hid behind dark sunglasses, pretending confidence he didn't feel. Chloe was nowhere in sight. She had cut all ties after discovering how deeply he had planned to use her as a financial scapegoat. Her silence was its own betrayal. In the courtroom, Judge Ramirez presided, a stern woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for seeing through lies within seconds. She scanned the room before addressing the parties. "We are here today to review emergency protective orders, custody considerations, and preliminary evidence regarding allegations of domestic violence." Ryan's lead attorney stood quickly. "Your Honor, these allegations are exaggerated. Mr. Walker has maintained from the beginning that his wife accidentally—" Daniel rose, calm and composed. "Your Honor, we have irrefutable video evidence." He clicked a remote. The screen at the front of the courtroom flickered on. The footage from the courtyard played Emma holding Noah, Ryan grabbing her arm, the shove, the fall, the blood. Gasps rippled across the room. Even the judge stiffened at the violence of it. Ryan's attorney scrambled. "Your Honor, context matters." "Context," Judge Ramirez snapped. "Is there any angle, any explanation, in which shoving your pregnant wife to the ground is acceptable?" Silence. Thick, damning. Daniel continued. "We also have recovered audio." He pressed play again. Ryan's own words filled the room. "I only married her for image and Jack's money. Once she signs, Emma's gone." Ryan's face drained. His lawyers exchanged horrified glances. One whispered, "We didn't know about this." Judge Ramirez leaned forward. "Mr. Walker, do you deny this is your voice?" Ryan stammered. "Someone could have edited." Daniel didn't give him time. "Your Honor, we also have metadata proving the authenticity." The judge raised a hand. "Enough. I've heard enough." Ryan sagged in his seat. Daniel stepped forward again. "Additionally, Your Honor, Mr. Walker is currently under preliminary investigation for financial irregularities tied to offshore accounts." He placed the recovered basement documents on the table. "Evidence suggests intentional asset concealment." Judge Ramirez's eyes chilled. "Mr. Walker, did you attempt to hide assets during a pending divorce and investigation?" Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came. Finally, the judge delivered her ruling. Effective immediately, Emma Carter is granted full temporary custody of the minor child. Mr. Walker is barred from contacting her or approaching within 300 yards. A forensic audit will commence regarding the alleged financial misconduct. And given the severity of the incident, criminal charges for domestic battery will proceed. Jack exhaled a trembling, relieved breath. Emma closed her eyes, tears forming but not from pain. From justice. As officers approached to escort Ryan for further questioning, he shot Emma a look of rage, desperation, and disbelief. "You ruined me," he hissed under his breath. Emma stood, meeting his eyes with quiet strength. "No," she said softly. "You ruined yourself." The officers led him out. The courtroom buzzed. Daniel touched Emma's shoulder. This is only the beginning. But today you won. Emma nodded, holding Jack's hand tightly. For the first time in years, she felt the weight on her chest lift. The truth was finally louder than Ryan's lies. The days following the emergency hearing were a slow and humiliating collapse for Ryan Walker, a man who once believed he was untouchable. The courthouse decision had shaken his empire, but the true destruction came afterward, piece by piece, as every pillar of his carefully crafted life crumbled under the weight of his own actions. The morning of the formal custody hearing, paparazzi crowded outside the courthouse steps. Ryan exited a black sedan with 2 attorneys clinging to him like shields, barking, "No comment," at the flashing cameras. He wore a navy suit meant to project stability, but his jittery hands betrayed the truth. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "That's him, the tech guy who pushed his pregnant wife. He's finished. Did you see the video? Unbelievable." Ryan kept his head down, jaw tight, eyes hidden behind sunglasses. His confidence was gone. All that remained was fear masked as fury. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with reporters, court officers, and attorneys. Emma entered quietly through a side door, dressed modestly, surrounded by calm rather than chaos. Jack walked beside her, steady and protective. Daniel carried another binder of documents, radiating quiet authority. As they took their seats, Judge Ramirez entered. The room fell silent. "We are here today," she said firmly, "to finalize custody and financial rulings in the case of Emma Carter versus Ryan Walker, as well as to introduce new evidence." Ryan's lead attorney stood quickly. "Your Honor, we would like to request—" "Sit," Judge Ramirez said without looking up. "The attorney's Saturday." Daniel rose. "Your Honor, we'd like to begin by submitting a forensic report conducted on Mr. Walker's basement server." He handed a thick packet to the bailiff. Judge Ramirez skimmed the first page, her eyebrows rising. "This," she said, "is evidence of deliberate financial fraud." Ryan swallowed hard. Daniel continued. "The hidden accounts were tied to Chloe Lewis's name. Mr. Walker attempted to shift assets illegally during a pending separation." Ryan's attorney stood again. "Your Honor, if we could just—" The judge slammed her gavel once. "You will sit unless spoken to." Ryan's face flushed red. Then came the twist no one expected. The courtroom doors opened, and Chloe walked in. Whispers erupted. She wore a simple blazer, no makeup, hair pulled back, looking nothing like the glamorous woman who once clung to Ryan's arm. She held a folder in her hands, clutching it like a lifeline. Judge Ramirez looked at her. "Miss Lewis, you were not summoned today." Chloe nodded shakily. "I know, Your Honor, but I have something to say." Ryan stiffened. "Chloe, don't you dare." She flinched at his voice, then stepped away from him toward the front. "Your Honor," Chloe said, voice trembling but determined, "I need to tell the truth. Ryan told me he planned to get rid of Emma. He said once she signed the papers, everything would be ours. I recorded some of it, but he took my phone later." "Your Honor?" "I kept copies in the cloud." Gasps spread across the room. Judge Ramirez gestured. "Approach." Chloe handed the folder over. "These are screenshots, transcripts, and messages from Ryan threatening me if I didn't help him." Ryan shot up. "She's lying. She's trying to save herself." Judge Ramirez raised her gavel. "Enough." Ryan's attorney wiped his forehead nervously. Daniel stepped forward. "Your Honor, this corroborates the audio and the video we already submitted, and confirms motive." Judge Ramirez flipped through the pages, then looked up. "Mr. Walker," she said coldly, "your pattern of manipulation, abuse, and deceit is undeniable." Ryan trembled. "Your Honor, please." "For custody," she continued, "Emma Carter is granted full physical and legal custody of Noah and the unborn child. You, Mr. Walker, will have monitored visitation only after you complete anger management, therapy, and comply with protective orders." Ryan's face collapsed. "As for finances," she added, "due to your fraudulent activity and Mr. Carter's original investment, Emma is awarded significant restitution and a legal share of your company." Ryan gasped. "That's my company." "Not anymore," the judge said. "And finally," she concluded, Criminal charges for domestic violence and financial fraud will proceed. The gavel struck. Ryan crumpled into his chair as the bailiffs approached. His empire gone. His reputation shattered. His control stripped. His future ruined by the truth he tried so desperately to bury. Emma didn't look triumphant. She looked free. For the first time, truly free. The first morning Emma woke up without Ryan's shadow looming over her felt unreal, like stepping into a world she wasn't sure she deserved yet but desperately needed. She and Noah had moved temporarily into a quiet rental home arranged by Daniel, tucked along a peaceful street lined with blooming jacaranda trees. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't polished marble or glass walls overlooking the city, but it was hers. And most importantly, it was safe. Sunlight spilled through the sheer curtains as Noah babbled in his crib. Emma stretched slowly, her body still healing, but her mind finally unclenched after weeks trapped in a storm of fear. She touched her belly gently. The baby moved just a small, reassuring shift. "We're okay," she whispered. "We're really okay." Jack entered with 2 mugs of weak coffee, how he'd always brewed it back in Ohio. "You slept," he said with a soft smile, placing 1 mug on her nightstand. "That's a start." Emma nodded. "I forgot what peaceful sleep felt like." He kissed her forehead. "We're building you a life where that'll never be taken from you again." Later that day, Emma sat at the kitchen table with her MacBook Air open. For the first time in years, she felt a creative spark return. She sketched nursery designs, soft colors, warm textures, ideas for clients who had reached out after hearing her story privately through mutual contacts. Not as gossip, as support. Her inbox filled with messages. "I want you to design our remodel. You deserve a fresh start. We'd love to hire you for our guest house." Emma blinked at the screen, overwhelmed. Her career, one Ryan always dismissed as a hobby, was coming alive again, this time on her terms. While she worked, Jack repaired a squeaky cabinet, humming an old tune. The house wasn't perfect, but every sound within it felt honest. No tension, no fear. That afternoon, Daniel stopped by with updates. "The judge granted all motions," he said. "Ryan's assets will be frozen during the audit. You're protected, completely." Emma exhaled deeply. "Thank you, Daniel, for everything." He nodded. "You did the hard part." Before he left, he added, "There's someone who wants to check in on you. I hope you don't mind." Emma raised an eyebrow, then froze when she saw who walked in behind him. Ethan Cole. She recognized him instantly, tall, calm, quietly confident. He had attended several of Ryan's company events in the past, but he'd never fit into Ryan's world of forced charisma and ego. Back then, Emma barely exchanged a few polite words with him. Now he approached slowly, hands in his pockets. "Hi, Emma," he said gently. "Daniel told me you went through something unimaginable. I just wanted to make sure you're all right." Emma flushed slightly. "I'm healing," he nodded. "I'm glad. And I'm sorry you had to experience any of it." Jack watched from the hallway, lowering his hammer and giving Ethan a silent but thorough inspection as fathers do. Ethan noticed and smiled respectfully. "I also wanted to tell you something you probably don't know," Ethan said. "Years ago, Ryan pitched his company to me. I turned him down, not because of the tech, because of him." He hesitated. His arrogance, his disregard for people, something felt off. Emma blinked. "You saw it even then?" "Clear as day," Ethan replied. "You deserved better, from the beginning." There was no flirtation in his tone, no pressure, just sincerity, a language Emma wasn't used to anymore. They talked for nearly an hour. Not about trauma, not about Ryan, about life, about design, about their kids, about quiet things that made the world feel softer. As Ethan stood to leave, he paused. "If you ever need anything, help, advice, someone to talk to, I'm here. No expectations." Emma nodded, her heart fluttering with something fragile but warm. After he left, Jack leaned against the counter smirking. "I like him." Emma rolled her eyes. "Dad, I'm just saying," Jack chuckled. "A good man recognizes another good soul." Emma glanced out the window, catching sight of Ethan walking down the street, sunlight brushing his shoulders. For the first time since the nightmare began, the future no longer scared her. It felt possible. The weeks that followed unfolded slowly, gently, like a sunrise Emma never thought she would live to see. Her body healed first, the bruises fading, the pain in her abdomen easing, the baby in her belly growing stronger with every checkup. But it was her spirit that took the longest. Trauma lingered in small ways. The way she flinched at sudden noises, the way she checked the locks twice at night, the way she still woke sometimes with her heart racing, afraid she was back in that marble courtyard. But every day, something new stitched itself into the fabric of her life. Safety, consistency, peace. And then there was Ethan. He didn't rush. He didn't push. He didn't hover. He simply appeared when needed: an afternoon coffee drop-off, a quiet conversation on the porch while Jack tinkered with the tools, a gentle text asking how her ultrasound had gone. His presence softened the edges of her days without ever overwhelming them. On a warm Saturday morning, he invited her to a small charity event downtown, supporting survivors of domestic violence, something he'd been involved in long before meeting her. "I thought maybe you'd like to come," he said, standing at her doorway with his hands half tucked in his pockets. "No pressure, just good people, good purpose." Emma hesitated before answering, not from fear, but from disbelief that a man could invite her somewhere without expecting anything in return. "I'd like that," she said finally. The event took place in a modest community center, not a hotel ballroom or a gala stage, but a place filled with folding chairs, handwritten posters, and women who carried stories in their eyes. Emma listened to speakers as they shared experiences that echoed hers in quiet, painful ways. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. She felt seen. Ethan stood beside her the whole time, keeping respectful distance. He didn't touch her hand. He didn't need to. His presence was steady, anchoring her without pulling her. After the crowd thinned, they stepped outside into the golden afternoon light. Los Angeles buzzed faintly beyond the block sirens, traffic, life moving forward. Emma breathed deeply. "You all right?" Ethan asked. "More than all right," she said. "Just surprised I can breathe this easily again." Ethan smiled softly. "Healing is quiet. It sneaks up on you." They walked slowly toward the parking lot, the sun warming their backs. Emma felt calm in a way that reminded her of home Ohio mornings, fresh air, Jack fixing coffee. She hadn't felt that in years. "You were really strong in there," Ethan said. "I hope you let yourself see that." Emma looked down. "Some days I worry I'll never be whole again." "You will," he said gently. "And even if the cracks stay, they don't make you less, they make you more." She blinked back, surprising tears. They reached her car, and she turned to face him. "Ethan, why have you been so kind to me?" He took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "Because I know what it looks like when someone loses themselves loving the wrong person. I know the courage it takes to choose yourself again. And because kindness shouldn't need a reason." Silence settled between them, soft, warm, full of meaning. Emma's heart thudded, and for the first time since her marriage fell apart, she didn't feel guilty for feeling something new. That evening, after putting Noah to bed, she sat on the porch with Jack. Fireflies blinked around the yard. "You like him," Jack said, sipping his coffee. Emma blushed. "Dodd." "Stop," Jack chuckled. "I'm just saying, I've seen men who take and men who give. Ethan, he's the second kind." Emma watched the sky for a moment, thinking. "I'm not ready for anything big." "You don't have to be," Jack said softly. "Just let yourself feel safe." Emma nodded, smiling gently. She wasn't in love, not yet, but she was learning what love could look like. Kind, steady, healing. A love that didn't hurt. The morning Emma finally stepped back into the Beverly Hills mansion, the sky was clear, surprisingly gentle, nothing like the day the courtyard ran red with her blood. She wasn't returning as a wife or a victim. She wasn't returning to beg or to reclaim something lost. She came only to collect what belonged to her and close the door on a chapter that nearly destroyed her. Jack walked beside her, strong and silent. Movers packed her remaining belongings: Noah's crib, a few boxes of her clothes, the baby's toys she had bought herself because Ryan never cared enough to choose any. The house felt smaller now, stripped of its illusion. Without Ryan's charm clouding the air, she could see it clearly cold, sterile, a museum of ego. It had never been a home. She walked alone to the courtyard, running her fingers lightly over the stone where she had fallen. A faint trace of the stain remained, a shadow of what once almost took her life. She crouched slowly, placing her palm against the cool surface. "You didn't take me," she whispered. "You won't take anything from me ever again." Her voice didn't tremble. Jack approached quietly. "Ready?" "More than ready," she said, standing straighter than she had in months. Meanwhile, miles away, Ryan sat alone in a cramped apartment he'd reluctantly rented after the company removed him as CEO. The board had voted unanimously. Investors fled. Sponsorships dropped him in a day. His accounts were frozen, pending the forensic audit. His reputation, the one he valued more than the wife he betrayed, collapsed publicly and violently. He scrolled through article after article. Tech founder under investigation for domestic violence and fraud. Former CEO kneels in viral courtyard confrontation. Insider confirms asset concealment scheme. And worst of all, Emma Carter granted full custody, wins heroic support after near fatal incident. He slammed his laptop shut, the sound echoing through the empty apartment. This was the bed he built. Now he had to lie in it. Back at the mansion, Emma supervised the last of the boxes being loaded into the moving truck. Jack stepped up beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he whispered. "You really did it." Emma nodded. "I didn't think I could survive it, but I did." "You didn't survive," Jack corrected. "You rose." They shared a quiet, emotional moment before Jack went to check on the movers. Emma lingered in the doorway one last time, letting the silence settle. Then she closed the door behind her without looking back. Weeks later, life began to bloom again. Emma moved into a warm two-story home with a small garden. She painted the nursery in soft greens, designed her own studio space, and launched her interior design business officially. Her first month brought in more clients than she'd ever dared hope for. Word of mouth spread. Her work became a symbol of resilience beauty born from broken places. Jack moved in with her temporarily, helping with Noah while her pregnancy progressed. Their evenings were peaceful home-cooked meals, soft music, no shouting, no controlling voice telling her she wasn't enough. One evening, Ethan arrived with takeout and a shy smile. "Thought you might like a break from cooking." They ate together on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the horizon. Noah giggled in Jack's lap, while Ethan gently rocked Emma's chair with his foot, a small, affectionate gesture that didn't demand anything in return. Emma rested her head against the cushion, feeling for the first time in a very long time whole. Ethan glanced at her softly. "You seem lighter," he said. "I feel lighter," she replied. He hesitated, then added, "You deserve a life that doesn't hurt." Emma met his eyes, warm, steady, patient. "I think," she whispered, "I'm starting to believe that." A breeze rustled the trees. Jack smiled quietly from the corner of the porch, pretending not to listen but clearly rooting for every bit of Emma's happiness. In that gentle, golden moment, Emma realized the truth. She had not been saved by wealth or revenge. She had been saved by courage, by the people who loved her, and by the part of herself she thought she had lost. She exhaled, placing a hand on her belly as the baby kicked softly. "This," she whispered, "is our new beginning." The past was gone. The future was hers. Justice was complete. And Emma Carter, heart healed, dignity restored, surrounded by love, finally stepped into a life where she was safe, cherished, and free. So that's how our story comes to an end. And if you're still here with me right now, it means something in this journey touched your heart in a way only life itself can explain. Maybe you saw a piece of yourself in Emma's strength, or Jack's love, or the quiet healing that came after all the storms. And that's the real message. No matter how deep the hurt, dignity and peace are never out of reach. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Emma chose that power. She chose herself. In life, we all face moments where we must decide whether to stay in the darkness or walk toward something better. Healing isn't loud, it isn't fast, but it's real. And you deserve it too, gentle days, safe love, a home where your heart can breathe freely. If this story touched you, even a little, I'd love for you to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to our channel. Not for the numbers, but because stories like this remind us we're never alone in what we feel. Thank you for staying until the very end. It means more than you know.